Before reviewing KOF'97, I had to go back to the previous two KOF titles and review the ported Game Boy Pocket versions of the King of Fighters 95 and 96. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but the Game Boy version of KOF'96 was a game that I ended up playing for many years throughout my youth. I mostly grew up playing portable and arcade games over home consoles, and this was one of them. And from what I remember, I loved everything about this game. But now, it's been a while since I played this game. And with fighting games having such a bad rep on the portable versions, then it's time to find out if it truly was a great game, or if my desperation for a good fighting game on the Game Boy clouded my judgments. But first, we'll have to start with KOF'95. So, let the sin begin! These portable versions were developed by a Japanese toy company called Takara. The gameplay, as you can see, is not the best, but better than most fighting games ported to the Game Boy Pocket, or any portable games from the 90s. It does feel a little bit like you're playing the KOF'95 arcade game, but with a variety of alterations to give the best performance possible here. Characters have the same basic attacks and specials, including their ultimates, and that's impressive. I mean, you really can tell which moves they're pulling off if you've played the arcade version first. They do resemble their arcade counterparts, and since the character sprites are like miniature versions of each fighter, you get a wider shot of both combatants here, and I don't see how that could be a bad thing. Even when we only have the A and B buttons, they managed to pull off almost every single move nicely. I think it was actually every single move. Pressing both buttons at the same time lets you perform the dodge tilt, and pushing forward and both buttons performs the strong attack. Pushing down and both buttons makes you charge your meter bar. And here's the cool part you wouldn't expect. Tapping the A button will result in a light kick, and pressing hard on the button will result in a heavy kick. Same goes for the B button for the light and heavy punches. Ain't that a brilliant move on the developers? Unfortunately, this doesn't mean that the game is as enjoyable as the arcade version. Well, the arcade version has its major flaws as well, but let's talk about the flaws in this version. This is all very surprising. Like with the character sprites being very recognizable, same goes for the music, sounds good, and the Fatal Fury characters can still do the duck walk, just like in the arcade version. That's crazy dedication from the developers right there. I don't think anyone has or would ever use the duck walk in a competitive fight against a human player or the CPU. And I'm sure the devs knew this, and yet they bothered to include it. Gotta love these developers, there is just so much attention to detail to their work. But the very first noticeable problem in the game has gotta be the actions of the AI. I think the AI deals slightly more damage than you do. I performed a strong attack in midair while my opponent performed a regular attack in midair, both hitting each other at the same time, and yet the AI dealt a little more damage than I did. Oh. I see the Diablo does not fall far from the tree here, eh, game? For those of you who don't get the insult, see my review on the arcade version of this game. But there's more. As soon as it corners you, the motherfucker just starts getting aggressive. It's like an MMA fighter. The moment you fall over, the opponent just starts bashing the shit out of you while you're trying to remember how to move. So this, mixed in with its buff on dealing more damage than you, creates one annoying-ass opponent, and you then have to resort to choosing one of the following broken-ass characters in the game: Billy, Iori, Athena, and Ralph. Each of these characters can spam a special move that usually gives you the easy win. Usually. Right, Mr. Sir? Iori can just spam that 3-hit special combo. Athena can spam her Phoenix Arrow, slowly chipping away damage. Ralph is practically unbeatable and unreachable as long as you spam his Vulcan Punch, both the special and his ultimate versions. And Billy, you just gotta wait till he has only about 20% health so it starts flashing, allowing for endless ultimates to be spammed, and the trick is to pull his ultimate off only when you're slightly far from the opponent. Not all the way across the screen, but slightly far, because this is the only time the AI will automatically take the hit. So spam Billy's ultimate 3 times this way and you won the fight. Even Saishu and Rugal are no problem as long as you use these cheap characters. Without their spam, you might not even be able to deal with the first team you face off against in the normal difficulty. No bullshit. Some things just don't really work well either. That dodge tilt doesn't dodge most of the time. The AI has faster recovery frames, so you can't even try to time an attack after your opponent has missed their special. And it doesn't help that everything slows down to keep up with the combos and a few too many things at once. The most I landed when it came to basic attacks was chucking the opponent, but that for some reason deals like 0.5 damage. Luckily it's the same when the AI throws you, but it still sucks because it's the one move that tends to work over basic attacks, and specials, and ultimates. Again, unless you're using one of the broken characters I mentioned. Clearly there would be limitations when we're talking about the Game Boy Pocket version of these games, and those would be that the game slows down a lot when a character performs their ultimate, or even just a regular special move at times. Almost every sound effect has been excluded, background stages are still images, there are only 5 stages, and not every character from KOF'95 is in this game. We're missing Chang, Choi, Chin, Robert, Andy, Clark, King, and Takuma. So every team but the rival team is missing 1 or 2 members. There's also one ending that every character shares, so it doesn't really encourage players to beat the game with other characters for a new ending. But if you beat the game in the normal difficulty, you unlock Saishu and Rugal as playable characters, and the game even shows you how to perform all their specials in each character's ultimate. This is a nice surprise because if you were to own the game, you might have the manual handbook, which would likely show you the moveset for every character except for the unlockable characters. So at least this way you won't be confused with the unlocked characters' movesets. Well, at least for back then. The 5 stages aren't really much to talk about, except that they don't really resemble any familiar locations. 2 of them are part of the KOF tournament arena, so it feels like one of them should have been scrapped to make room for a different arena, especially since there's not even a single tournament arena in the arcade version of KOF'95. I think this one is supposed to be the stage with the factory and the city in the background. It's not too good. And this one is likely supposed to be the stage with the Neo Geo Land building in the background, but it sort of comes off as a small gym. Those things in the background look like treadmills. The only stage that's fully recognizable is the boss stage, which is But this game ain't that bad. It ain't as bad as I've made it sound so far. I mean, they even included an exclusive character that was not included in the arcade version of KOF'95. This character is Nakoruru from the Samurai Showdown series. I love it when a game that's a portable version of a fighting game receives 1 or more exclusive characters. It's like the greatest way to reward the player who is willing to put up with the limitations to their favorite fighting game. Sky's the limit with this character. Oh, there she goes. Farewell, Bidwell. Farewell. Now, let's take a look at the Game Boy port of the King of Fighters 96, the one I grew up with. And after playing this game for just a couple hours, I can't believe it's actually as good as I remember it. I tried finding any issues to talk about and there just aren't any. I'm not kidding. I'm not even trying to sound biased either. The AI is perfectly balanced. And just like with the arcade version, we can dodge, roll, and sprint. Almost every fight against the AI feels exciting. Nothing feels slow. Visuals are spectacular. There are less slowdowns during a fight. In fact, sometimes it feels like an anime fight is taking place, especially when executing an ultimate. They not only improved every problem I had with the previous port, but they even improved every positive I had about the game. Characters still fight exactly like they do in the arcade version. Even those that are returning characters like Kyo has been given the exact basic attacks and specials that he got in the arcade version. They could have half-assed this and just used the entire asset from the previous game files to skip having to program all the new sprite animations and attacks for him. But they took the time to make it right. My favorite characters in this port are Kyo, Mai, Athena, and Mr. Karate, a character that was not included in the arcade version of KOF'96. Usually, I don't like picking the boss-type characters since they have overpowering moves, but he has some of the best sprite animations. I love how he starts off a fight with his back turned to us, and then he quickly grabs the mask he has on his back and puts it on fast enough to keep his face hidden. That is slick. I also love how he can just perform the Zenretsuken. Ryu used to do this, but He doesn't in this game, but you know what? It's so satisfying to just pull it off here. Of course, his ultimate is well, it's not overpowered, it's hyper-powered, because I forgot to mention another thing about these ports. They even included the max ultimates. So if his ultimate was already something, his max ultimate is a rope-a-dope of death. And you can't help but pull it off because those spectacles are just amazing. Look how insane this looks. I'm so glad that I wasn't just clouded by my love for fighting games and portable games growing up, and this really was an incredible port of the King of Fighters 96. It's just as good as I remember it. Heck, even better now that I finally played Takara's previous KOF port. And that's not to say that they half-assed the Game Boy port of KOF'95, because even when I go back to playing it after completing an arcade run of its sequel, I still end up enjoying it because it looks and feels similar to KOF'96. Characters like KO have different movesets, and I like seeing things that I can't do in its sequel port. As I've mentioned before, Kim Kefwan is one of my favorite characters in the series, and he's not in the KOF'96 port, only in the 95 port, so it gives me another reason to play that game as well. So there are actually a few pros that the port of KOF'95 did better than its sequel port. Another example would be the victory quote, which includes a large headshot of each fighter. Compare that to the same sprites in their winning pose with the victory quote in KOF'96, and you gotta go with 95's victory screen, of course. So even though the port of KOF'96 is better than the previous one, I still recommend fans to try both of them out, especially if you appreciate the Game Boy for what it was, and you too have a soft spot for pixel art. The European release of the KOF'96 port was released in 1998, a year after the release of the Japanese version, and this one was titled The King of Fighters Heat of Battle. No idea why they couldn't just keep the same name, but looking at the Cutting Room Floor website, they mentioned some interesting facts about the regional differences between the two, and it's mainly with the title screen, especially when playing the game on the Super Game Boy on the SNES. But I don't know what surprises me the most about this game. The gameplay, the character roster, the sprite animations, the soundtrack, or the crazy amount of secrets within the game. I'm talking about KOF'96. I played this port so many times growing up, and since there was no information around me regarding this game, I wasn't aware that there were multiple secret endings that were triggered if you played certain characters in a team. For so many years I never knew this, but the Game Boy version of KOF'96 has up to 6 special endings. These are secrets because nowhere in the game does it tell you that putting these characters in a team would give you special endings. The only secrets I ended up finding as a kid were those unlocked by completing the game. You unlock Goenitz if you beat the game on normal difficulty, and you unlock Mr. Karate if you beat the game on the hard difficulty. And you can fight him if you manage to beat the game on hard without losing a match. On GameFAQs.com, it says that there's a hidden ending if your team consists of Mr. Big, Geese, and Krauser versus Iori, Chizuru, and Kyo. And I played through the arcade mode a few times with these guys, and only their special team ending ended up appearing, so maybe it happens at random since the arcade ladder can have you going up against edited teams as well. Also, it's possible that this is wrong and there are only 5 special endings because I tried them all and the special ending with Ryo, Robert, and Mr. Karate would not trigger a special ending. I beat Chizuru and Goenitz with each character in the team and there was no special ending. So if the hidden ending mentioned in GameFAQs.com is real, then technically there are 6 special endings, but if that too ends up being fake, then there might only be 4 special endings in total. One thing about the special endings is that aside from the new dialogue, you also get to fight 2 of your teammates, and you don't get to choose which character you want to play as because the game will automatically make it the character that ended up defeating Goenitz. Also, whichever character ended up beating Chizuru, that person will be shown in the center during the cutscene before fighting Goenitz. Just thought I'd mention that. I think Joe Higashi makes a cameo in the Art of Fighting / Fatal Fury stage. The others around him look unrecognizable. In the arcade version, the guy sitting down near the center of the stage is Jubei Yamada, but here, I can't say it looks remotely close to him. Chang makes an appearance in the tournament stage. I can't tell if Choi is by his right arm or if that tall guy next to him is a cameraman or Clark. The Psycho Soldier / Hero stage includes a background cameo of Benimaru and Chin. I believe the boss team stage still includes Billy on the far right side by the audience. I didn't see any more cameos appearing in KOF'95 port, so that's about it for the secret cameos in the backgrounds. Here's the last secret that I can't believe was not mentioned in most forums or even the game facts for that matter. Something I never knew even after countless years of playing the game. If you team up Iori, Chizuru, and Kyo for one of the special team endings, after beating Goenitz with this team, Iori will fight against both Kyo and Chizuru. If you played as Iori and defeated Goenitz with them, you'll get to play as Iori and take on both your partners. And if you think it'd be a better decision if you played as Kyo or Chizuru defeating Goenitz with them, you'd be very wrong because, to our surprise, Iori goes berserk and becomes Orochi Iori. And the developers actually bothered to create all new sprites and animations for this one specific special ending fight. Is that incredible or what? Oh, and that's not all. If you're going for the special ending that requires you to team up Leona, Iori, and Mature, this time Leona goes berserk thanks to the Orochi blood and she becomes Orochi Leona. And like with Orochi Iori, the devs took the time to craft out new sprite animations, even down to her Orochi Ultimate, just for fans to enjoy one shocking ass surprise whether you're playing as her or fighting against her. Bravo, Takara developers, bravo! What a surprising pair of portable fighting games. I haven't even mentioned that both games include AI autoplay, meaning that by holding B and pressing the A button in the game select menu, you can put the computer against itself. So just choose which AI character or characters you want to see go up against the AI computer itself, and there you go. Both games include a singles mode, in case you want to beat the tournament with only one character and 2 rounds for each match. If you pause the game during a fight, you can skip frames pressing the select button, and rapidly pressing it will make the game look like it's moving in slow motion. Oh yeah, characters can taunt as well by pressing the select button during a fight. Forgot to mention that. And if you just want to unlock the 2 secret fighters when starting the game, just press the select button 20 times during the Takara logo at the start of the game. The last thing to mention about both games is that the devs even included dip switches for additional cheat codes. While testing some of them out, I found out that after inputting the code to unlock all boss characters, this also allows you to play as Orochi Iori, Orochi Leona, and as well as Chizuru with her sub-boss stats. All you have to do is press the start button on either character and their picture icon will flip to reveal their secret forms. Chizuru is now called by her first name, Kagura. I don't know why. Maybe because she has a twin sister that appears as her ultimate, as well as some of her special moves. So now I can even play as them from the start. Oh, the beauty of old school gaming. Variety. I bet modern day developers forgot what that means. Honestly, after finding out about all the extra secrets that lie within this Game Boy pocket of a game, I had to go back to KOF'96, the arcade version, and see for myself if it's possible that there were some additional secret endings and secret characters that I never knew about. Like, if it's possible to play as Orochi Iori or even Orochi Leona, since this was her first appearance in a KOF game. And they're not in it! So this means that KOF'97 is not the first tournament where Orochi Leona and Orochi Iori are playable, because the Game Boy version of KOF'96 makes it official that this is their first playable versions. And that is beautiful! Long live Takara! Now, I think I'm not the only one who actually enjoyed the hell out of these portable games, because fans even went as far as to create a Game Boy port of KOF'97 using the same engine as the ports and cramming in every character from both games. Yes, even the Orochi forms of Iori and Leona. By pressing the start button in the select screen, it reveals the rest of the characters that could not fit into the screen. The gameplay seems to be at the same pace as the KOF'96 port, and it surprises me to see characters from both ports either fighting each other or teaming up together. However, as you'd expect from a fan mod, it has its bugs and glitches. Didn't take longer than 5 minutes to notice one. Every time I pulled off Kim's ultimate, he executes it like 5 feet off the ground, so halfway through his ultimate, he misses the remaining attacks. There were also some noticeable glitches throughout a match that pop in at random, so it's not the best in presentation, but it's still fascinating to say the least. Before I end this analysis, I gotta mention something I learned while I was searching for any information about the games, but also ended up finding an interesting fact about the arcade version of KOF'96. Remember the team assists? This is when a partner from your team can end up interrupting your opponent when they're either grabbing you or if your character is dizzy. They'll quickly strike the opponent. This has been around since KOF'94, 5, 6, and it continues in KOF'97 and 8, but starting KOF'96, it now depends on the relationship between the characters in each team. So if you're playing as the hero type characters and you have two villain type partners, you can bet your ass that they won't assist you for shit if they get the chance. But I can't really hate this feature as it does shed some light on character relationships, and I think that's important and impressive. Who would have thought that the developers would care about adding this in, right? Anyways, that's something I had to mention since I'm moving on to the next KOF game to do a deep analysis on. And that is the King of Fighters 97. So get ready for that review pretty soon. That's it for the video. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button to give this video a chance to grow. I'd like to thank all my Patreon supporters for their impeccable generosity. Your support means a lot to me, and you are part of the reason why I try to make the best content that I can. And if you like this content, check out the rest of my channel. You'll find more entertainment from separate franchises I like to cover, such as Mortal Kombat, Dragon Ball Z, Celebrity Deathmatch, Men in Black, The Mask, Batman comics, The Terminator, TMNT, Dino Crises, Resident Evil, and more. If you're a Patreon supporter, check out my exclusive videos such as the Gantz content. And if you'd like to show your support, go to my Patreon and support the channel, which is only $1. Sacrifice that McChicken for extra quality content, my friend. But anyways, I'll see you all in the next video, and remember to have an awesome day.